question is, for each of these generations, what do they want? We're in a particular time period where we have 4 generations that are, I don't like to use the word colliding, but they're all in the workplace at the same time. So although I focus on millennials because that's who I'm teaching and that's who my energy is around, this is a challenge for employers today to figure out how to meet the needs of each of these generations, not just millennials. So you can see this is what the conventional wisdom says about millennials, that they want status and money, they want to be leaders, but they also value being close to family and friends, work-life balance, things like that. So we're going to talk about how those values influence and shape people's attitudes towards work. Why are we talking about millennials? There's so much energy out in the world about this term, about this group, millennials. And the reason is because although there's a lot that's positive that you can say about millennials, it makes it really complicated. This new generation makes it complicated, more than 3 times the size of Generation X. That is why it's so important to understand who they are, to understand what they want, and understand how they're shaping our workplaces. Okay, digital natives. Right? They're known for being comfortable. We talked about this a little bit before, comfortable with technology, the internet and texting. I used to have a problem when I first started teaching. I didn't think to address it because I just assumed that everybody would know that when you enter a law school classroom, you put all the technology away. You just sit and, listen in rapt attention. And I found out the hard way that that's not how that works. Or even, I'd have I love this. I'd have meetings with my teaching assistants who, they're like the best of the best, creme de la creme, and I'm having a meeting, and like one of them would pull out their phone and start texting, and I'm like, what is happening here? So I would like to share with you kind of the research and then also my experiences of working with this group. What I have found is that it's all about messaging, is that you have to give them, in my experience, reason to care, and you kind of have to explain why. You have to do more explaining as to why something deserves their support, why should they be involved, they're busy, they're doing all these other things. I found I share with them what I'm passionate about. They will come. I had a student this week who stopped in to bring me a book that I had to read. The book is Evicted, Pulitzer Prize winner out of Princeton. He's now at Harvard. You have to read this. This is the most amazing thing. And then I would like to sit down and have a conversation with you about the homelessness crisis. And this is someone who's from my torts class in the fall. My experience hasn't been that way, but the research does suggest that. Yeah. To me, all of this, without giving away all of it boils down to communication and how you communicate information. You really, I think that millennials are as perceptive, as empathetic as other generations, but you need to be able to believe that they can understand it and that they can interact with the material and kind of approach them with a little bit more respect than they tend to get. Why is it important to engage them? I think I've touched on this already. They bring a lot of energy. They're just going to be very important to the workforce. Productivity. Right? Everybody's concerned with productivity. They want to make sure that they're getting the most bang for their buck in the workplace. Right? This is the reason, actually. So I'm giving you the statistics from 2009 and 2014, and then I'm going to go forward, okay? Millennials, the short version is that millennials are going to be taking over the labor market. By 2020, you know where we are now, by 2020, 50% of the American workforce will be millennials. By 2050, 75% of the global workforce will be millennials. So similar to the statistics that you were talking about with jurors, they're important. You can't ignore them. Right? They're going to be taking over. And so based on numbers alone, everyone should have an incentive to care and to think about what impact they're going to have in the workplace. Retention is a big game. We're going to talk a lot about loyalty and the fact that they're willing to jump ship. okay? So they're hard to get. Once you get them, they might not stay long, okay? Their per job tenure maxes out at 2 to 5 years. And this is the research, and it's borne out in stories. I could tell you a million stories. I will tell you one of a student. I remember her as a first year. She's been out for many years now. It took her, she was unemployed for a while right after graduation. And then she got this great job in an amazing employment firm in the city. And so I talked to her. She was really excited about that job. And then later on, I don't think it was 6 months later, I saw her somewhere out in the world, and she was no longer at the job. And I said, what happened? Did something happen? She said, oh, I quit. And I said, excuse me? She said, I just wasn't feeling fulfilled. I was kind of bored. I don't think that they were using my talents effectively. And I was having this moment, like, we try to be, non-judgmental, and we try to hear. And so I was trying to control my face, but I think something slipped out in here before I said anything. And she said, do you think that was the wrong decision? And I was like, right? But it's hard to, if I had talked to her earlier, I would have been there to sort of coach her through, okay, well, maybe you can leave, right? You may need to leave. It could have been horrible. I don't know the ins and outs. But most jobs take a little while to get used to, and sometimes you have to kind of stick it out long enough to know, is this just beginners sort of jitters or whatever that I need to get over. And so I don't know, maybe I could have made a difference early on, but it just struck me that she was just so ready after being unemployed for so long, just ready to leave. And it relates to something that I have on a slide later, but I'll just tell you now, millennials, and the research says this, they don't believe that they will have a hard time finding a job, right? Regardless of what the actual statistics are, they don't have it, right? That's not me. As a Gen X, I'm like, careful, I'm plotting, I'm gonna think it out. How miserable am I? I'm not that miserable, right? I'm gonna stick it out. I'd like to, support my family. And they're like, I'll find another job. And so I think, that's something that I think that that's something that, well, we can talk about it later. Is it something to coach people out of, or is it a good thing? We can talk about it. I think it's an interesting thing.